Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Tonight I wanted to talk to you about primarily three subjects. The first one is the report that Israel began withdrawing some of its brigades from North Gaza, alongside the actions that are being committed by the genocide forces inside of Gaza after this withdrawal too. I also wanted to talk to you about the Benjamin Netanyahu situation when it comes to his health and the fact that he will most likely not be traveling to Trump's inauguration later this month. And the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about is another article from the same man who I quoted yesterday, the resigned Major General Yitzhak Brik, about the strength of Hamas and the disastrous situation Israel is in at the moment. I'm going to start off with this report here. So the Kfir Brigade is withdrawing from North Gaza. It indeed carried out a withdrawal after 2 months of genocide. It's not the first time that Kfir has been in Gaza. They've been there multiple times, but now they are withdrawing, and the excuse in Israel is that they finished carrying out an operation to do with a command center in North Gaza. This is what Israel's saying. They finished off an operation to do with command bases where people from Hamas were overlooking and seeing parts of Israel. When really and truly all that's been happening is, well, the Palestinian resistance has been hitting them time after time, including today. More attacks against the genocide forces inside of Gaza. Today they targeted 10 genocide soldiers in Beit Lahia Al-Qassam brigades in a joint attack with Al-Quds brigades, Sarai Al-Quds, the armed wing of the PIJ, as well, alongside other resistance actions from all across of Gaza. That's the reason why they were withdrawing. It's not the fact that they completed the mission. The whole purpose of the operation that Israel is carrying out in North Gaza is to ethnically cleanse Gaza. They called it the General's Plan. The General's Plan is confirmed to be, by Israeli definitions and by reports coming from Israelis who are carrying out this operation from the army and outside of the army, that they want to depopulate the northern part of Gaza, meaning, well, they're confirming that they want to commit an ethnic cleansing campaign in the north part of Gaza. Why are they withdrawing now if they haven't completed the whole mission? I mean, there are still people in Gaza. Israel is targeting, indeed, the hospitals that are remaining, like the Indonesian hospital, after they completely destroyed Kamal Udwan Hospital and kidnapped its director, Dr. Hussam Abu Safiyu, who is now reported to be seen in the Sde Timan, the notoriously known Sde Timan prison, or a place where they keep people. Can't really call that a prison. The same place that had a person being raped by the genocide soldiers, by the way. That's the same location, and even Israelis protested outside of this place to be closed, but Israel still has it open, and the person who's in charge of the prisoners is none other than Itamar Ben Gvir. So why are they withdrawing the Kfir Brigade? They're withdrawing it because of the continued attacks coming from the Palestinian resistance that I will be talking about in more detail shortly. However, Kfir Brigade, it's very important to note, is a brigade that is primarily consisting of those from the West Bank. West Bank, extreme right-wing settlers. Israel withdrew its classical divisions from Gaza, 36, 98, and 99, including massive brigades like Golani, the oldest brigade. But the Kfir Brigade is one of those brigades who has a lot of views that are completely in line with Benjamin Netanyahu and his government, because Israel found it more and more difficult to convince people to come and serve in Gaza. Firstly, they have approximately 50% refusal from the reservists to serve in general. Israel, although they are trying to make it more appealing to serve in Gaza by publishing videos and images and reports about places like the Netzarim base, how modern it is, the fact that the genocide soldiers in the Netzarim line can walk freely without even wearing helmets and enjoy popcorn and movies. Imagine how sadistic. Killing people left, right, and center, and trying to entertain their genocide soldiers. Sadism. So this means a big defeat for Israel, but the thing wouldn't end really with the Kfir Brigade, because there are still active brigades inside of Gaza, and they're still committing massacres. The last massacre was in Al-Bureij in particular. Israel had attacks all across of Gaza, but the one in Al-Bureij was extremely ugly. I mean, Israel killed at least 11 people, 7 of which were children. Again, punishing the civilian population because of their failure and to cover up their failure when it comes to the resistance. And the statistics about the destruction, not only when it comes to the people, but also the buildings in Gaza, are beyond shocking. Israel destroyed all of the universities in Gaza. They destroyed almost all of the hospitals, schools, all of them, although they're used as, refuge shelters, refugee camps, really. But now there's also a report coming from Gaza that Israel in total destroyed 1,000 mosques during more than a year of this genocide. You know what 1,000 means? I mean, if 1 or 2 were an accident, or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10, 1,000. And imagine they can get away with it. They can get away with it because their allies, they don't view this as a problem. At the end of the day, you're talking about the chosen people doing this. If the chosen people decide to destroy mosques or churches, for that matter, by the way, that's not a problem, is it? And also, it wouldn't be worthy of reporting in mainstream media, Western or non-Western mainstream media. So yeah, the chosen ones have been up to a lot of no good in the past year. And it's important to highlight these things. I mean, some of these mosques in Gaza are over 700-800 years old. Some of them over 1,000 years old. Heritage, history. They even bombed the oldest church inside of Gaza. Why? Why do you want to do that? Also, Hamas is also inside the church and the mosque. And important to note, of course, because these things are also covered up. Mainstream media doesn't usually talk about that much. The next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is the head of the genocide entity, the psychopathic, narcissistic maniac, war criminal, wanted for war crimes, the war criminal on the run. That's his definition, really. The war criminal on the run, Benjamin Netanyahu. He has been released from hospital, and they're saying that he has a recovery period ahead of him. Now, although he was advised by his doctors not to attend a voting session, he briefly went to the Israeli Knesset and he did vote, despite criticism. And the people who saw him said he looked weak and ill. He looked weak and ill, and he has a period of recovery ahead of him. Okay. Now, there has been a lot of talk and controversy about the prostate situation, the fact that he had to remove the prostate. Firstly, Benjamin Netanyahu, we had reports about him dating back to 2018 that he had cancer. He tried to cover all of these reports. Then in the past 15 months, he's been in and out of hospital. Heart issues, heart problems. He didn't look great in many cases too. And now still some reports saying he had cancer, and that's why he had to remove the prostate, because it was cancer. Again, other reports denying. But what's for sure is the man is not in great health. Now, Some said it was stage 4 cancer, so his situation could be really bad. And usually the recovery after the removing the prostate operation, it could last for like a week, a couple of medical things involved, catheter, but usually you'll be fine based on reports of similar operations, 5 to 6 days usually. But they're preparing for Benjamin Netanyahu to have a much longer recovery period for some reason, to a level where in Israel they're saying that Benjamin Netanyahu might actually miss the inauguration of Donald Trump. So we're not only talking about just a couple of days here. We're in months now. So there was this report here in Israel Hayom saying that among the reasons for the emerging decision, the understanding that he will no longer be able to be absent from his trial and his health condition. So it's saying the trial and the health condition, but that, however, he is expected to visit the US maybe later in Feb or in March, but not for the inauguration. I mean, lots of things don't sound well from all of these reports about Benjamin Netanyahu, especially with the fact that he made a big effort to hide previous reports that he had cancer. He wants to hide it as much as possible. Now, it could be nothing. I mean, it could be things being pumped up, but the fact that the man has been in hospital in and out for so long indicates that he might be having something a bit more sinister than what the media is telling us, especially in Israel. Now, the final thing that I want to talk to you about in this video is another article from Major General, the resigned Major General Yitzhak Brik, about the situation in Gaza, about Israel, about Hamas. The big bluff, Hamas is growing stronger while Israel is losing control. Now, Yitzhak Brik is one man who I've been quoting from the beginning of the war. And it's important to note that Yitzhak Brik has many people who share his views in Israel, and some of them are serving too. So you're talking about a point of view that is at the very top in the Israeli political and military echelons. It's not just people who have resigned or people who are not serving with Benjamin Netanyahu, because this man specifically, he still has communication with soldiers in Gaza. Some of them still speak with him. And he previously reported about all of the lies that the soldiers who serve in Gaza say that's being published on Israeli mainstream media, and how far it is from reality, and how the Israeli media twists things to show the public that, well, no, Israel is having lots of successes in Gaza, but the fact of the matter is they're struggling on the ground. And this article, I'll take a couple of details from this article because it had a lot of nice in-depth analysis and input about the situation when it comes to Gaza. Brik started with the idea and the notion that they always spoke about they want to eliminate Hamas. Benjamin Netanyahu constantly spoke about eliminating Hamas, and that now actually Hamas is controlling Gaza with a very strong hand, with thousands of fighters protected in underground tunnels, hundreds of kilometers, and reinforcements of more soldiers. Reinforcements, according to him, of a further 3,000 soldiers that were just added very recently. According to him, also, the tunnels are full of goodies, more ammunition. Hamas is receiving more ammunition and weapons from Sinai through the tunnels under the Philadelphia corridor and via drones from Egypt, according to him. The tunnels under the Netzarim axis also haven't been blocked, and Hamas weapons and fighters pass freely through them to the north of the Gaza Strip. Now, if we hold at these 2 points themselves, shocking admission coming from someone with the level of Brick. We still have weapons going through. Hamas is still able to channel and get in weapons from Egypt under the tunnels, under the Philadelphia corridor, and via drones too. They still have tunnels under Israel's biggest base inside of Gaza that they constantly portray to be as a massive safe haven for their depraved, filthy genocide soldiers to go and rest and enjoy themselves when the resistance still attacks them too. These two things are very, very important, and a massive proof again that Israel has no chance against the Palestinian resistance. He also added that all the presentations and the talks coming from the political and military echelons that we control Philadelphia and Netzarim are a farce, according to him. He said, we are present at the top, but everything continues to take place down the tunnels without the control from the IDF. Hamas continues to run the Gaza Strip, and we return to Jabalia for the 5th time, and a similar number in other areas. One of those other areas was Khan Yunis, but other parts too. We are losing many soldiers and seriously wounded, having people who are seriously wounded. And since the 5th entrance of the Jabalia, we lost nearly 40 fighters. Now that's only according to what Israel is admitting in Jabalia. The biggest losses that Israel has admitted ever since all of their invasions in Jabalia. He also added that the IDF cannot defeat Hamas. The IDF simply cannot defeat Hamas because there is no surplus of forces. IDF soldiers do not remain in the territories they occupied for long, and that's why they are unable to eradicate Hamas's rule and seriously destroy their strongholds. And indeed, that's what Israel does. They go in and go out and go in and go out and go in and go out to a level where many soldiers start to complain about this. It's so demotivating, it's so demoralized, so depressing, going to an area where you lost people, you had lots of ambushes against the resistance, only to come back with these people who you were fighting for so long and sacrifice so much against to try and do something, only to see them getting stronger and stronger and bringing more people and new equipment and launching missiles and targeting more tanks and more troop carriers inside of Gaza. He also added, we are not able to collapse Hamas, but in the name of this cliche, Bibi gives up on rescuing the hostages who are dying in the Hamas tunnels. All of this serves his supreme interest in continuing the war in order to remain in power. And he's calling that a serious violation of all basic values of which generations of fighters and civilians have grown up on. The abandonment is the betrayal of the state by its citizens, according to him. The consequences of these depraved actions by Bibi and his cronies will bring disastrous results. Citizens and soldiers whom the state betrayed in their most difficult time will express an unwillingness to contribute to the state, and certainly an unwillingness to enlist in the army, which is what has been happening. And not only has been happening, has been increasing in level when it comes to refusal, rejection, refusing to serve, criticizing the government, all of the distrust in the politicians and in the army itself. He added that this happiness that we're having, this jubilation, is also short-lived. He gave an example about how they remember all of the jubilation of the political echelon and the military and the media commentators when Nasrallah was assassinated. And then he's saying that, well, we're happy about these things, but at the end of the day, it didn't take long, and Hezbollah continued their war of attrition against us and targeted us in levels that were dozens of times bigger than previous attacks. Missiles, rockets, and drones deep into Israeli territories caused heavy damage, in his words, and property and lives from the northern border to Tel Aviv. And he's saying what happened after that. The IDF has cut the ground army by thousands of tanks, 50% of the artillery divisions and infantry brigades and more, by a total of 6 divisions. So that's why, in his opinion, they don't have the surplus in forces to have enough maneuvers deep into enemy territory and continue to attack them and win the war. They don't have a surplus. Whereas on the other hand, both Hamas and Hezbollah are recruiting new people. When it comes to Hezbollah, from the beginning, they said how many people wanted to already join the fights, and we don't have, we have enough people, we don't need any more. And with Hamas, it's very easy. And again, Israel has been the biggest recruiter for these resistance movements because they see the alternative. They see the alternative that the Israeli terror army is having inside of Gaza and in Lebanon as well. Now, all of this, according to Brick, is causing a huge difference. A huge difference in what? In what's happening on the ground and the lies of the political and military echelons that are trying to create a positive image at the expense of the truth. He also said that after the extremist jihadists conquered Syria, according to him, he's also referring to Syria, we once again heard joyful cheers from the political and military leaders and large parts of the public, and them claiming that we targeted and damaged the Iranian axis of evil thanks to the IDF, and we no longer have enemies. And he said, this reminds me of the same smugness, arrogance, and irresponsibility that we heard in the years before Hamas attacked from Gaza on October the 7th. We were saying that we were the strongest army in the region. The Arab countries are deterred. He was criticizing that and the self-satisfaction without understanding all of the threats. And now he's saying that we're having the same arrogance and joy when it comes to Syria, when we could be facing a threat that is 10 times worse than what we have already. He added, quoting the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, saying, President Erdogan, who stood on the right of the rebels and the coup in Syria, said that he would help leader al-Julani and threatened Israel to stop the occupation. Syria said that Jerusalem is ours. We're ignoring the fact that an evil axis that is 10 times more dangerous than its predecessor could arise in place. According to him, an evil axis of extremist Islamic states led by the Turks. This axis could arise in Syria, which would become an extremist jihadist state, a terrorist state that sits on the border with Israel, and also Jordan could join too. And he finished off by criticizing and warning from Egypt, again, saying that Egypt is slowly moving away from the peace and closer to countries who oppose us, like Turkey and Iran. The Egyptians, according to him, have the strongest army in the Middle East. 4,000 tanks, 2,000 of which are modern, hundreds of modern aircraft, and the strongest navy. All Egyptian military training is targeted against Israel, according to him. The Egyptians have built more than 100 crossings under and above the Suez Canal, so to quickly move their army to Sinai. They have built new expressways of roads within Sinai towards Israel, established fuel depots, moved ammunition into Sinai, and maintain an army in Sinai far larger than permitted by the peace agreement with Israel. So he's saying we are being joyful here and we're not really seeing the threats. And what is that doing for us? According to him, all of that can be summarized in the following. This is a huge potential that could be realized in a comprehensive regional war against Israel. And with us, nothing is happening. The same indifference, arrogance, and smugness that was there in the last 20 years before October the 7th. The state of Israel does not have a window of opportunity until this existential threat is realized in all its strength. There is therefore an immediate need to increase the ground army, acquire weapons suitable for future wars, not for past wars, repair relations with countries of the world, save Israeli economy, and heal the sick society that is on the verge of civil war. We must not again sink into delusions of do nothing and reach the situation we reached on the eve of the outbreak of Iron Swords War or worse. But according to him, again, with the current political leadership and senior military leadership, the state of Israel has no hope. Only their immediate replacement with a new generation of leaders will be possible to save the country from collapse and open a new horizon. And he ended it there. Now, the prospect of having anyone from the younger generation replacing anyone in Israel is not very likely at all, especially with Benjamin Netanyahu still being present and doing all of this to extend his position as the prime minister, even if he faces death due to illness. So it looks like we're left with nothing but the first option that the Israeli retired Major General Itzhak Brik mentioned, which is that Israel has no hope and therefore also no future in the region.